Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mata, you can.
Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshuruन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः. Carl felt that the creative group who came to see the Swami in his studio were all quick to enter into the mood of the Kirtana, but they were using it in their own ways to supplement their own private visions and ecstasies, with no real intention of adopting the disciplines or the undivided worship of Lord Krishna. Prabhupada was their first real contact with a spiritual person, and yet even without trying to understand, they became absorbed in his kirtanas and in what he had to say. Carl would invite them. Hey, come on, this is genuine, this is real, you will like it. It's music, it's dance, it's celebration. Carl saw that people just felt good being in the Swami's presence and meditating on the chanting and eating the Swami's cooking. It was unlike anything they had experienced before, except maybe for their moments of creative insight. Yet for Carl and Eva, Prabhupada's simple presence created difficulty. Never before during his whole stay in America had he been a more inconvenient or unwanted guest. Carl's studio was arranged for him and his wife to live in alone, using the bedroom, kitchen, and living room and way they liked. If they wanted to smoke marijuana or eat meat or whatever, that was their prerogative. This was Carl's home. He lived here with his wife Eva and their dogs and cats, but now they had to share it with the Swami. Almost at once, the situation became intolerable for Eva. She resented the Swami's presence in her home. She was a feminist, a liberated white woman with a black husband and a good job. She didn't like the Swami's views on women. She hadn't read his books or attended his classes, but she had heard that he was opposed to sexual intercourse except for conceiving children, and that in his view, a woman was supposed to be shy and chaste and help her husband in spiritual life. She knew about the Swami's four rules: no meat eating, illicit sex, intoxication, or gambling. And she definitely did not want Carl's Swami trying to change the ways to suit his, and he had better not expect her to wait on him as his servant. She sensed the Swami objecting to almost everything she did. If she were to seek his advice, he would probably ask her to stop taking drugs, get rid of the cats and dogs, stop drinking, and stop contraceptive sex. If the Swami had his way, they would probably eat only at certain times and only certain foods. Eva was a heavy smoker, so he probably wouldn't like being around her. She was ready for a confrontation. But Prabhupada was not one to make intolerant demands while living in another home. He kept to his allotted corner of the lot and he made no demands or criticism. Hadn't he seen his host and butler eating meat and only remarked, thinking nothing of it? Nevertheless, his imposing spiritual presence made Eva sorry Carl had ever met him. To say to Eva, the Swami was an inimical force, and she, being candid and independent, let him know. As soon as he asked whether she could bring him something, she replied, "Get it yourself." Carol Becker saw the situation as being extremely uncomfortable and tense. Eva was quite resentful. Eva complained to Carol. Here she was paying rent for the loft, working hard, and this man was trying to change their way of life. Carol, Eva couldn't handle his teachings, and she couldn't handle his influence over Carl. She didn't feel so constrained, but she felt that Swamiji was making Carl feel constrained. This was Eva's main objection. The Swami was influencing Carl. Her relationship with Carl had only recently begun, and Carl was aware that she needed much of his time. He agreed with his wife, yet he couldn't refuse the Swami. He was interested in Indian music, poetry, and religions, and here was a living authority, vastly knowledgeable in all facets of Indian culture, right in his home. Prabhupada would cook his meals in their kitchen, and right away Carl would be there, eager to learn the art of Indian cuisine. Carl also wanted the Swami to show him how to play the drum. They would have long talks together. Carol, Carl was trying to be something he really wasn't, but he would never have suggested that the Swami had to leave. Swami, I'm sure, was astute enough to pick up on this tension. As soon as he could, he tried to move to another place. Gradually, Carl reached an impasse in his relationship with Prabhupada. He couldn't share his life with both his wife and the Swami, and ultimately he was more inclined towards his wife. Carl, I couldn't see my loft becoming a temple. I was raising cats and dogs, and he wanted them removed. He used to call me a meat eater, but then he changed our diet. Of course, he was eating the American culture, which doesn't know what all this business is. I have to put it on myself as much as anyone. I could understand and absorb India through an impersonal agency like a book or a record, but here was a living representative of God, and to me, it was as difficult as anything I have ever had to do before or since. Prabhupada was not insensitive to the distress his presence was causing. He didn't want to inconvenience anyone, and of course, he could have avoided all inconvenience both for himself and for people like Eva if he had never come to America, but he wasn't concerned with convenience or inconvenience, pleasing Eva or displeasing her. He wanted to teach Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada had a mission, and Carl's loft didn't seem to be the right base for it. Prabhupada's friends all agreed he should move more into the center of things. The Bowery and Chinatown were too far out of the way. They would find him a new place. Forced by conditions he accepted as Krishna's mercy, Prabhupada sat patiently trying not to disturb anyone. Yet, speaking about Krishna consciousness day and night, Carl assured him that with half a dozen people searching, it wouldn't take long to find a new place, and that would help. That would all chip in together and help him with the rent. Hare Krishna. So here we see Prabhupada's intense struggle. His sole mission was to fulfill his guru's desire, and for that he depended completely on Krishna's mercy. He went to extraordinary lengths. At one point, living with a drug-addicted man, we read in previous readings. His name was David Allen, who could be violent at times. The situation got worse, and he had to leave the place because it is so dangerous. Working in the medical field, I can even imagine that situation. Then he started staying with a couple named Carl and Eva. Um, where his disciplined lifestyle clashed with their lifestyle, especially the wife Eva. While Carl was attracted to the Swami's teaching on Indian culture and cuisine, his wife wasn't happy because she thought that it could change her husband. Despite Prabhupada's personal tolerance and quiet demeanor, the imposing spiritual presence created friction among them, forcing Prabhupada to seek a new place for his mission. So that's what we